Well, it was a meeting that was really just a hearing, and it was never very clear as to what the purpose of it was, except the fiscal agency did go through Senator Bishop's proposals and what would be some things that would have to occur if we actually enacted all the cuts that Senator Bishop has proposed, and they're draconian as far as I'm concerned. They're huge cuts to higher education at a time when we should be investing. It's cuts to every department, eliminating a lot of community health programs, eliminating the staff that actually make sure that local projects get funds for providing medical services to the poor and to people who are in nursing homes, in foster care homes. Our caseworkers, there'd be a huge loss in caseworkers, and all of revenue sharing, statutory revenue sharing, would be eliminated. So that affects police departments, that affects road construction, it affects every aspect of the budget, and they are things that I think the public would not accept.
And so what we're talking about, it's easy to talk about these numbers, not easy, but when you go underneath these numbers into specific programs, we had this conversation last week about the early retirement. We're talking about real people, our constituents with human faces. We're talking about life and death matters. We're talking about abuse and neglect cases. We're talking about health inspections in our restaurants. We're talking about public safety. How are we going to make these cuts and corrections without closing down beds in our prisons, and whole prisons even? We're talking about Michigan families paying higher tuition for higher education. We're talking about other states where we've seen actual bridge collapses and deaths. So I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that if we don't meet our obligations by coming up with a reasonable budget, which includes some revenue, that we are endangering the lives of the citizens of the state. So I appreciate your putting forward and explaining to us this proposal, but I cannot look at this and think that anyone put this forward as anything but a political ploy to say, here we're cutting the budget, you're asking to raise taxes. We know in all seriousness that that's not a way we can move forward, and I don't know why we're wasting our time even looking at this.
We've tried it for 6 years thinking things would turn around. Maybe we should just fix the structural problem. Maybe we should do that, and there's basically two ways to do it. You got to either cut or you got to raise some revenue. Combination of the two, but it's got to be a real cut. It's got to be a real revenue.
I thought that the proposal was not really one of. I don't think anybody ever would ever vote for that. It was just more of a political statement to say that they've at least looked at other options. Really, I think what they wanted, part of it was to say that, well, if we're not going to do this, we got to get busy on doing the revenues, and yet that's not part of what they're proposing at all. So it's still part of the back and forth political rhetoric, and I really want to get down to solving the problems. And the end result was that's what we said, let's solve it. And let's reach across party lines and get it done.